When we research, we really want to use expert resources. So how do we know that a book is actually expert? So we know that the book is expert if the person who wrote it, for example, if it's about butterflies, if the person who wrote it is either a scientist and knows a lot about butterflies, or if they've done a lot of research, or if they have called in a scientist to check the facts over, those kind of things, then we know it's an expert book. And it's also really good if the book has a list of references listing where the information came from. It's usually a list of books. Sometimes the list is called a bibliography, but it all just means that the book shows us where the author got their information from. So for example, in a book called The Great White Shark, we can see that there were actually 2 consultants who were called in to fact check this book that was written by Deborah Nizzolo. So because Deborah is not a scientist, she's actually called in 2 people who have really strong scientific knowledge as consultants to just cross-check that her facts are correct in this book. So that tells you this is an expert book, even though Deborah Nizzolo herself is not a scientist. So if this book has consultants, it's often written in tiny print at the front or back of the book. We can tell that this book about the great white shark is an expert resource because it's got a list of books that were used to provide the information. Now, this list of books is in the back of the book, and it can sometimes be called references, might be called bibliography, it might be called a reading list, or it might be called read more, but it's going to be a list of books. Sometimes it's a list of websites. So how can we tell if a website is expert? So we can tell if a website is expert because it might have been produced by an expert organisation, for example, Taronga Zoo, or the Art Gallery of New South Wales, or a museum, just an organisation that has a lot of experts working in it. Now, the real thing that you've got to look for is an About section, because in the About section, it lists the expert's qualifications, and it just tells you who has put the website together. So that's the really biggest thing about expert websites. It's great if they've got a list of resources that they refer to, books and things they've used, but really on a website, the big thing you need is an About section telling you all about the organisation and the expertise of the people in the organisation. So some people say that when you're looking at a website, to decide what's going on with the website, you should use the 5 W's of website evaluation. Who, what, where, when, and why. It really just means you've got to work out when you're looking at a website whether it's expert and whether someone's trying to persuade you to have an opinion, or whether they're just laying out some facts. So who wrote these pages, and are they an expert? How can I find out more about the author? And then what is the purpose of this site? What information is included? And is the information different from other sites? So the 5 W's of website evaluation can often help you to notice if a website is expert. The big trick is to look into the About section on a website and learn who the people are who have created the website. So we're trying to put together whether a website is mostly just factual or whether it's pushing an opinion. That's what we're trying to notice there, because some websites are kind of pretending that they're all about facts, but actually they're pushing particular opinions, and we call this that they are very biased. So that's what we're trying to notice when we look at websites. So which websites can we trust? So we can trust, generally speaking, we can trust sites that have edu in them because they're generally teaching us things. We can, generally speaking, trust websites that have gov because they're often giving us information to help us out from the government. And as I've mentioned earlier, we can trust expert organisations where the people working for the organisation have really good qualifications and experience. The big trick, as I've said before, is to look in the about sections to see what's going on.